Grow Fam. This is Stephanie Rodriguez, editor and producer of the Regenerate Revolution Life Soil Success podcast. We hope you enjoy this episode.
I'm your host, Mark Irvin with Green Grow. Today we have on the show a legend in the cannabis growing community in Northern California. His name is Dan Lovas. He's been in various industries, and I'll let him describe what your life has been. But it's been a pleasure for me to know Dan. He's a really accomplished grower and has brought a lot to the cannabis scene in Northern California. And we just want to talk about your farm and general passion for cannabis cultivation today. So thanks.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's always exciting to talk to other people about what you're passionate about. And
yeah, why don't you give a background of kind of...
Well, you know, I actually taught martial arts for 37 years. I taught jiu-jitsu for law enforcement. I taught MMA and I taught taekwondo. So I was around 300 to 400 people every day, communicating with them and helping them in their lives grow and to achieve their goals. And after 37 years of doing that, you know, I couldn't do it anymore physically. I had a hip replacement. I had some issues physically, and I turned to cannabis for issues that I had, and because I don't do pharmaceutical drugs or anything like that. And when I went to find good cannabis for myself, I couldn't find anything that I would deem healthy.
Yeah.
And I, you know, being part of the MMA world and martial arts, I'm also have a nutrition degree where I work with people through holistic healing of their body and proper nutrition for their blood types. So I have a really good understanding of how humans eat and what they need, and I think that's transferred over into growing plants as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've talked about it a few times that most people that I come across that grow cannabis or anything, they think that the food is so different for plants than it is for humans that they can't comprehend what we're saying, you know, when we're coming up with things about needing to feed protein to your plants to get them to grow well. Trace minerals, they need to have, there's 102 minerals that exist that plants and humans can take up, and you know, you need to have products that can get close to those 102 minerals to be at full genetic potential. So you worked on full genetic potential for the humans you worked with on their health, fitness, and their diet.
Absolutely. And, you know, I did take a similar approach with my plants. With people normally only exercise their organs, meaning they normally only eat once or twice a day. Some people eat 3 times a day. And their bodies aren't working that well. They're not to the full potential. And when I feed them a little bit less, but more often, I get a better response. For instance, if a person ate 5 times a day instead of just 3 times a day, their organs are going to exercise. Their metabolism's going to change. They're going to become stronger, more fit, and more clear because their body's working together more often instead of just occasionally. With cannabis, I found most people feed once a week. Well, for me, it didn't make sense. So for me, I feed a little bit less every 3.5 days.
On the organic side, right?
On the organics.
Yeah.
Now, with the salts and stuff, I stay away from those pretty much. I use some of your products, the hybrids, that are amazing and a big part of our grow. But I try to keep it as organic and as healthy and as alive as I can. So, I mean, I want my soil to be alive and I want living products going into my soil to increase the product.
And what, for the audience listening, what are your criteria for quality cannabis? You know, there's a lot on the market, there's a lot in dispensaries, people are growing them in these giant 1,000-light facilities. What is the difference between what you see on the market currently and what you produce?
Well, I believe a lot of what's on the market is carcinogenic. I know I'm going to get some haters there.
No.
However,
I agree.
What I learned in nutrition was, first of all, I would never buy vegetables and eat them without washing them.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's the thing. If you go to the grocery store, you're buying lettuce and everything else. The first thing everyone does is they wash it before they make it into a salad.
Exactly.
Why do you wash it?
Wash because I don't want parasites into my system. I don't want pollutants into my system. And anything that I'm doing on a daily, I try to improve the quality of my health from it and the quality of the health from the people that are going to be using my products. So if I'm not doing the best that I can to produce the highest quality, I'm failing those people that are trusting me. And then you go back to that term, if you buy McDonald's, you eat McDonald's.
Yep.
I'm not willing to feed people McDonald's and kill them,
No, I mean,
So-
and so it kind of circles back to something that you've been doing for a long time and that Green Grow is a really big fan of, and it's contentious though. So basically people in the community, the cannabis community, either will take this thing I'm about to say violently or they'll accept it wholeheartedly, and that's washing the cannabis right when you cut it down. Most people have a violent response to me or a very positive response because they're like, you don't wash cannabis, that's stupid, you're an idiot, you're gonna wash things off, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, every pharmaceutical compound that goes into a pharmaceutical corporation's manufacturing facility is washed. Every single compound, whether that be the plant extract, the whole plant, everything. Same thing with our foods, it's all washed. And so I always get sometimes hate mail where they're like, oh, you can't wash your cannabis. And I'm like, I can't believe you're selling cannabis to people that you grew outdoor or in a greenhouse that's full of pollen, dust, pesticides, fertilizer residues from compost tea sprays, and the list goes on and on. Mold, mildew, botrytis. They're just cutting it down and selling it as is. Yeah. And so you and I have talked about this a lot, but I think if we're gonna call this medicine and it's gonna help people who have differing diseases, including children, it needs to be medicinal quality.
It does, and I think the farmer needs to step up too. If you know something is causing damage and you do nothing, that's neglect.
Yeah.
And I go, that's the last thing I want to be accused of, is neglect for the care and the health of the people who are going to use our products at the end. Mm-hmm. Like I was saying, when I turned to cannabis to help me with my physical problems that I was having, I had to find something clean. So I started growing my own and washing it immediately. And when I saw what came off the plants,
oh God, yeah.
I mean, it was horrible.
The water is like almost like a brownish color, grayish brown color. And when people wash for the first time, I always tell people this, they can be a hater first and then they wash and they call me back and go, all right, Mark, you're onto something here.
Oh, and wait till they see their flower. I'm inside a greenhouse. So they think, why would you wash your plant in a greenhouse? I said, well, I had a piece of fly paper in the corners of my greenhouse. You should see how dirty those are. Would you smoke those?
Yeah.
The flower is disguising the dirt. So as soon as we wash it and they see the rust color or the pollen or the bird poop or the oils from the essential oils I used as a pesticide, having that come off immediately and then pulling it out, it's like I'm unclogging the pores of the plant. Mm-hmm. Now the nose is twice as good when it dries because there's nothing in the way. The color is brighter.
Oh, the color
it's stickier because nothing is blocking it.
Exactly. The color was the thing that was the most vibrant to me. And I showed this one guy online who was really adamantly against it. I said, look, I'm gonna send you some. Just take a picture of the color of your cured cannabis, side by side, same strain, whatever. He said that the stuff that he washed was 3 shades lighter and more vibrant.
Do you think that would be easier for him to sell, Mark?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. It's easier to sell. And then here's the part for me is that I kind of have sensitive lungs, and so like if I smoke and it's not like white ash and it's not, if it's not pure, like I don't want to cough my brains out. To me, that means you're smoking in chemicals, right?
It's a pollutant.
It's a pollutant. So when you smoke cannabis, you really shouldn't be coughing very much. And if you are, you're smoking something that has not been cleaned properly or that's been grown very poorly in terms of chemicals and such that are in the cell walls of the plant. But, getting back to the main core of it, I think it comes down to when you deliver a product to somebody, there's a quality difference, and it's not just one thing. It's not just the farmer, it's not just a genetic, it's not just the fertilizer, it's also the curing technique. So let's talk about like curing and why you think people do it wrong.
Well, most people are eager to make money and they see their product as money that they haven't made yet, so they cut corners. So they might try to do a 4-day dry or a 2-day dry. And the reality of it is, if you bring your temperature to 70 degrees and your humidity to 60, in about 8 to 10 days, your cannabis will be cured. But if you take that humidity away from that 60 mark, it's it's going to dry a little faster, and it's not going to have the same nose. It's not going to have the same terpene profile anymore. You're going to burn it up.
And you know, you're at elevation with your farm a little bit, right?
Yeah, I'm just at 3,000 feet.
Okay. And so for the people at the coast, there might be a few degrees in either direction you might have to play with, but those numbers are basically where you want to get to.
For drying, 70, 60 is the holy grail of drying for me. That's where our highest terp scores come from, that drying period. We normally test our product at about 10% humidity is how dry our bud is. And that seems to give us our great numbers of THC and terpenes. You know, a lot of people, you want it drier to create more THCA or THA.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
To create more. But yet, with your products, I've been able to hit 30 and over 5 in terps with 30 THC, which people told me was impossible.
And we're going to talk extensively about terpenes in a minute, but I wanted to kind of hit on what you just said. Was a lot of the cannabis stores people are going to, they're buying cannabis that's stamped with some certificate that says this much THC, and that's what everyone's been focused on. And this is what I need to explain to everyone, is that you could have a plant that's at 31% THC test, and then you can test the same plant and be at 27% THC, and I think you know the difference.
Oh yeah.
And what did they do differently to get it to test like that?
Well, if you dry your cannabis more, the more you dry it, the more terpenes you dry out, the more THCA you have, which is a higher THC
And so
count.
it's a trick, right? I mean,
it's a trick. If you keep it and never let it go below 10, you'll keep your terpenes at the highest score. The THC only tells you how fast you get high. The terpene is the high, what quality of high, the anti-inflammation.
Yep.
You know, I'm an old martial artist, and I have all kinds of old fighters and stuff in the industry that work with me. So we grow things that focus on anti-inflammation and things like that, and it does incredible for us.
Yeah, you know, people have gotten stuck in this rut across the United States now, which is sad for cannabis, where it's just THC, THC. That is not, like, people need to understand, this plant has hundreds of cannabinoids and compounds, and all those things are meant to work synergistically together to provide the medicinal benefits. And when you focus on just one, you are leaving out some things that created that effect, or that inflammation reducing effect, or the anti-anxiety or the calming effect. And so that kind of brings us to the point of, like, people, you know, terpenes is really part of my life's work, of course, but you know, I think when it comes to THC and terpenes, people can get a plant that's at 22% THC and 5% terpenes and have the best experience of their life.
Absolutely.
And it's 8, 9, 10% less than what they're selling in the stores, and it lasts longer, it feels better, it's cleaner. And so that's why I've focused my career and life work on terpene development and understanding terpenes. So I don't know what your thoughts are on.
Well, when I first started up in North San Juan, that's where Green Synergy is, I had a few employees come in that I brought in, and they did dabs. They dabbed all the time, and I said, you want to smoke some flower? And they said, they don't really get as high anymore. And I'd just grown some peanut butter breath, and it came in at 4.9 in terps. Pretty good terp score. And they did a little tiny hit, and they were so wasted. The score was only 26.8 in THC. And they said it takes up to 97 to get them high. And they sat around for about 4 hours pretty high, not able to work, and said, what was that? And I said, you experienced terpenes for the first time.
No, I mean,
I go, you've been chasing the THC, and eventually that level of THC doesn't work. The only thing that will work is a terpene change. So terpenes are critical for everything that you need. I mean, when I grew Chocolatina, I focused on that one because it had helamine. Helamine kills all kinds of cancers. And so I was looking at a regular customer would have to smoke almost an ounce of weed if the terpene was only at 1.5, which was the average. But if I could get it above 3, they'd smoke a lot less. We hit a home run. We got it to where they only needed like a gram a day to treat their cancer and win by a higher profile of terpenes.
And let's talk about terpenes for people that are listening to this program that maybe aren't as familiar with them. Terpenes are in most botanicals in life, most botanical plants. So, lavender has terpenes, lemons have terpenes, limonene, right? Pine has pinene. Turpentine comes from, making it out of the terpenes of a pine, So terpenes are the smell, aroma, and kind of like essential oil in a way of the cannabis plant that helps to push or emulsify the other ingredients together, to blend and marry them together,
Exactly.
So usually people use oils in chemistry and stuff to kind of bind and push through. You get it to like a nanomolecule, a nanoemulsification in chemistry to try to get things to be bonding and absorbing well to whatever chemical situation they're trying to attack. But when it comes to terpenes, people realize that cannabis plants are so diverse in their terpene profile, and every single different smell, taste, flavors, because the terpene profiles change just so slightly. Myrcene could be higher, limonene, pinene, helionine, right? And all other things. But I think people forget, why do plants in nature have terpenes? We've talked about this, right?
Yeah. God created it that way.
Yeah.
That's gives us everything that we need, the herbs in the field.
And I think Dan's done an incredible job at hitting, industry leading terpene levels for the plants he's been growing. I mean, probably breaking some of the hard, fast rules that California had for their metric system of, we had, what was that strain you had that was over 5?
Chocolatina,
Okay.
5.2, and the highest in the state was 2.7 before that.
Yep, and that's the perfect part. I need to talk about this to the community, is that if you go to your local cannabis store or you buy it from your local buddy, most of the time they're not even going to give you a terpene score. They're just going to give you a THC score. And if you did get the terpene score, the average terpene score, at least in the Sacramento Valley and LA area, 1.7. So 1.7, Dan's hitting 5 consistently. I'm hitting in the 4s all the time. And the friends that I work with are hitting in high 4s. So it's not just that we have 3% more terpenes, it's that we have 300% more terpenes. We have 4x more terpenes, and people need to realize that. That's a huge number. That's a magnitude greater number. So when you say I have 28% THC and 1.7 terpenes, but I have 28% THC and 5% terpenes, it's in a completely different level altogether.
A+ versus a C-.
Absolutely. I mean, I think people need to realize this. Terpenes are what makes the premium quality. And we could tie it back to something people understand too, okay? Say it's wine or say it's tequila. You have the $10 bottle, $150 bottle, and there's complete changes and differences and nuances and tannins and things like that make it different in quality. With a Ferrari and a simple car, right? I mean, there's always little changes and minute differences. And so terpene farming is what I do and you do.
As well, yeah.
We're not really cannabis farming anymore. We're terpene farming because that's what we feel is necessity for the medicinal properties,
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I think we should really explain to the audience so that where do terpenes come from? So terpenes are basically a biochemical signaling languages for plants, and it tells the outside world around plants and in the soil, it attracts life. That's what terpenes are meant to do, is attract life. And the plant wants to attract life because it may want to get pollinated. It may want to have its seed spread. It may want to have nutrition brought to it under the soil surface from microbes. It may want beneficial insects to help clean it of infestation. It may want humans to come and grab it. So terpenes are something that all animals and species of life on Earth respond to. And so I believe, and I've built my life's career on the fact that you will never have the terpenes that Dan and I have in our cannabis unless you are pumping your soil and plant full of biology and full of life.
That's right, absolutely.
And talk to the crowd, Dan, about where you saw that difference happen with terpenes and like what we did biologically in your garden to kind of change that.
Well, for me at first, I wanted to be able to grow in the wintertime. So I was researching on how to keep my soil alive and warm. And the only way I could do that
Breathe life into your soil with GreenGrow. Organic, sustainable, all-in-one soil additives for your gardening and farming needs. With the highest quality, non-harmful ingredients. Locally sourced, GreenGrow promotes probiotic soil building that will nurture and help your soil flourish, maintaining a living soil system for your plants to thrive. Easy-to-use products for all stages of growing. You take pride in what you grow, and so do we. Grow only the best with GreenGrow Biologicals. Order online or find your nearest location where GreenGrow products are sold.
I started using mycorrhizae and using Earthshine, breaking down my soil and putting mycorrhizae in it. And then I realized with 3 feet of snow outside, but inside my greenhouse without any pushed heat, I'm keeping my soil at 55 degrees. And that was my primary focus. That was my pleasant surprise that my terps doubled that year in everything I grew. So that's where it came from me. I mean, you always told me ultrafine into those weeks of flower. It's every week of flowers. I refuse to not have as much living microbial source in my soil. That is my terpenes.
Oh, of course. And I mean, for maybe the audience that's not familiar with some of the products, well, GreenGrow produces like biologically driven fertilizers and soil amendments and additives. And our real intention here is just to say that if you pump every feeding or every soil with a tremendous amount of biologicals and keep feeding the biologicals, they're going to repay you and repay the plant tenfold. I mean, for the plant, they're going to keep the roots clean. They're going to feed it phosphorus. They're going to bring it water. They're going to, have other medicinal benefits to the plant's roots to keep it healthy. They're going to aggregate the soil better. They're going to keep the leaf surface clean on the leaf, if you have microbials on the leaf surface. And the plant wants to attract that. So what the plant does is it senses the presence of microbes and puts out terpenes to attract them. And then it's like, I describe it to most people as, terpenes are like, building an audience. So when you want to talk to more people, you need to, say more exciting things. You need to attract people to you. When you're doing a public speaking event, you need to be exciting. You need to be saying the right things, being dynamic, and attracting the people, maybe with a gift, maybe with something, right? And so if a plant is by itself in a sterile room with no microbes and no people, it doesn't need to put out terpenes. It will put out some. It'll put out some because it naturally does genetically, hoping that somebody will come to its rescue. But the more microbes and the more hands-on you are with your plants, it'll just keep pumping it higher and higher and higher to a certain genetic maximum because it wants to encourage you to give them more microbes and more people to talk to. Essentially, the microbes talk to the cannabis through terpenes. It really signals the plant, please get me some water, please get me some food, and in exchange, I will give you some sugar. And it's a total economy under the soil. And if people would just look at the soil as teeming with life like the ocean is, we're treating the soil as its own ecosystem. The ocean is its own ecosystem. They each have their own unique things they need to do to sustain life. And so the soil needs carbon because carbon is what microbes require to be present. So when you have more carbon in the right forms, you have more microbes, and you have sugars and complex carbs and proteins, then you have a thriving environment for your soil. And I mean, you and I have seen this firsthand on your farm. We've got, what are we on, like run 4 or 5, and it's just getting better and better?
Oh, wow, we're number 6 right now in 2 years. I do 3 crops a year in this particular location.
And how's the soil's getting?
Soil's great. You know, I added some more perlite, but that's because I lose some soil each time. But, I scratch in every single time. I don't cut corners. I do my flower finisher scratch in twice per cycle. And if people want great results like I'm doing, if they just follow your plan, they get the same thing I'm doing. I'm just disciplined. I do it.
Some people like to cut corners, and I always tell people, if you're a lazy gardener, and to be honest, I'm a lazy farmer. I will tell everyone. That's why when I created the line that I created, I'm just like, how do I make this as stupidly simple as possible?
The quick tea.
The quick tea. So, I mean,
that'll change a farm's life.
My approach, and you do this on a day basis, but my approach is simply, you top dress a dry organic fertilizer, you do a biological tea, and you do a foliar spray. If you can't do that, then you're never going to be at the level that we are for growing terpenes.
I do all of that once a week, but I feed twice.
Yeah, because you're cutting the feedings down a little bit,
Yeah.
and then so in terms of somebody that's maybe an aspiring cannabis farmer, or maybe someone that's been in the business for a long time and they're struggling, like, what is your advice to them?
You know, the biggest thing that I tell everyone is actually create your structure, write it down, what you're going to do. Put it in your phone, set alarms, be disciplined, and do the system. It works. It's been proven to work every single time. You know, we've been selling green synergy franchises this year for other farms to learn our system. And I can't believe how easy it is, because the system's your system. It's simple. You know, we propagate a little bit different in our drying systems and our water. You know, we have some other things that are unique, but it's so duplicatable that it makes it so anyone can get an A. You know, and an A to me is high terps, high THC.
And I mean, my last, major question for you is, I mean, where do you think we are at right now in the state of the cannabis market? Do you think we have room for improvement for what's on the store shelves, and how?
You know, I can't say the name of the brand, but there is a brand. They got 6 giant signs on I-5 with their brand. Their master farmer is doing a green synergy farm with me. He's been growing with Athena, and they have a great product that always sells. When he tried my product, he hasn't smoked anything in about 1.5 years, other than what I grow. He won't smoke what he grows anymore. He says it burns gray, mine burns white. He is sold off his shares of that company. He's buying a green synergy.
Well, and it's,
So, I mean,
it's
just
a
to
testament.
learn how to be better. And the guy's a rock star.
Yeah.
He's doing millions of dollars a year with his brand. He's killing it. But he wants to be better. He says, I don't want to just, he goes, I can keep some shares and still make money, and they can do that system. He goes, I want to smoke something that tastes good. I want to smoke something that burns white, that doesn't make me cough. And he goes, and I want to smoke 1/3 less. He goes, I only smoke 1/3 of what I normally would of mine when I'm smoking yours. He goes, it lasts so long, the terpene base.
And that's an important thing for people that are listening to the show right now. It's like, you don't have to, learn this program overnight. You can take time, you can learn it through a couple regimens and get better and better and better results.
Oh yeah. You know, we had one farmer just switch to the quick tea once a week and doing a green amino spray every 8 days, and his crop is bigger than it's ever been. He calls me every day, says, with the money I'm making this year, I'll be able to afford to do the whole lineup next year. And the guy's so excited.
Well, yeah,
And he just started with a quick tea, once a week.
And that's like my main topic to people that are across the United States. If you're growing with just pure mineral salts, which I understand, you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
If you just want to do one thing to improve your terpenes, give it a quick tea. And a quick tea is simple. It's like you're adding soluble organic ingredients, catalyst, which would be like your carbohydrates, and then you have, seaweeds, humic acids, some proteins, amino acids, and some microbes. Okay, just those things, and obviously Green Grow makes those, green aminos and bricks. But I mean, if you wanted to go out there and do it yourself, do a quick tea once or twice a week with your salt-based regimen, and you will come to us and say, you know what, I tried it, I listened to you, and my terpenes are up 1% or 2% or whatever it is, right? And that simple change is going to unlock in their minds the idea that plants are not meant to be grown in sterile environments where there's no love or attention being paid to them. They're just like humans, where they need all the 102 minerals. They need the proteins. They need the 9 amino acids. They need all that stuff to reach their genetic maximum. Because you wouldn't put a bodybuilder on anything like what we're trying to feed these plants right now.
No, it'd be like McDonald's.
This is exactly how I describe a pure mineral salt sterile system. Is you're in the hospital, there's a needle hooked up to a vein, and you're not thriving, but you're surviving. Okay?
Just surviving.
You're surviving because it's literally the needle's going to your vein and it's giving you all the nutrients of the macro piece that you might need. But once you start eating an apple and eating fruit and eating meat, at the hospital. Then you start getting healthier and stronger. And then you go, okay, maybe I don't need this anymore. And so that's my whole thing. Mineral salts have their place, and I believe in synganics, where if you're in an environment where it's too cold or too humid or something, or the genetics just not responding, hit it with a mineral salt push. You know, that's fine if you want to do that once or twice, but don't make that your core program.
You know, about 17 years ago, I guess I was growing with, synthetic products, and I was winning cups, and I thought life is good. And then Ian introduced me to you and started learning, and I switched up, and I couldn't believe each year I got better, and each year I produced more, and each year I had more people that would never want to smoke actually want to try that because they know the care and stuff what I put into it. What I was growing before, I wasn't educated. I didn't even understand how to flush the plant, to get rid of those salts and things. And I felt so bad when I learned the reality of burning salts. It's carcinogenic.
It's carcinogenic. I mean,
if you want cancer, don't flush the plant and smoke it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But if you don't want that, flush it. And if you don't want to even take a chance, don't use those products.
Well, and for me, it kind of goes back to, I'm obviously an archaeologist by trade, so it goes back to the Native Americans. I mean, they smoked cannabis, but they also smoked tobacco. And it was pure, organic
Tobacco's
tobacco,
good for us.
Right? Yeah. And it's only now that the cigarettes that are made today are causing cancer because they're sprayed with a bunch of chemicals, they're grown chemically, they have pesticides left on them before they get rolled up. And then there's a bunch of burning agents in the paper and all this kind of stuff. And all of those things cause cancer. The Native Americans didn't get cancer from smoking tobacco.
And they weren't addicted to it because the tobacco itself is non-addicting. And I have tobacco plants growing at my house. I'll pull a leaf off and soak my feet in, some boiled tobacco leaves for a detox. I mean, tobacco has so many medical benefits.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's just too bad that it's gone the wrong direction. But I mean, in the same scope with the cannabis, and this is the last thing we'll say about it, is, people need to know that they have choices and how they can produce. They can produce with quality, and if maybe it doesn't fit their needs, they can just introduce little bits of quality, little bits of it changes to their grow. Yeah,
and you touched on something earlier. You don't smoke it unless it's white. Hopefully, the people listening out there, before they grab that joint, look at the color of that ash and see if you want to put that in your system.
Yeah, if it's burning black or dark brown, then those are carcinogens.
Yeah, and that's super toxic. So you're worth it. Don't smoke that stuff and start looking in your dispensary for washed cannabis.
Yeah, and it's going to be a revolution right now where people are seeing such a huge difference in washed cannabis that I don't see it going away. I see all the haters getting silenced over the next 5 years as everyone's going to have to say, why don't you wash your cannabis,
Well, when the studies came out in Colorado about unwashed cannabis and how it was 70% more cancer causing than cigarettes, but because it was unwashed.
Well, this is what people don't understand about chemicals, right? Chemicals are bad enough to get into your skin and going through your body, but when you add fire to it, right? it leads to such it goes from being from like a hazmat to a natural disaster for your body, really.
Exactly.
When you're burning chemicals that are left over on the cannabis into your lungs.
That aren't organic.
And a lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of cannabis farms, if they're going to risk failing or losing a crop over, pests or mold or mildew, they may go nuclear on how they spray that cannabis with agents like, I don't want to say them, I guess, on the basically really chemical agents that are used in agriculture right now that will wipe out a whole field, right? In the grape industry, if you're spraying an insecticide and it's a bad enough one, they'll cordon off the field, the block, and you have to have a hazmat suit on to get it sprayed, and then you can't go back in that field for 72 hours. And that stuff is being sprayed on cannabis in certain locations across America when they're just about to fail, because guys, they don't want to lose a $2 million crop of cannabis. And in these big facilities, sometimes some of them will pull a nuclear option so that they save the cannabis. And that's not being washed off. And you guys are smoking that into your lungs, and it's causing, I think it can cause mental disorders too. Like a lot of people now are saying that mental illness is caused by chemicals in the body. And I think that a lot of it comes from people smoking chemicals into their body.
Yeah. Just not washing the food they eat or the cannabis they smoke.
Exactly. They're getting hit by chemicals on all sides. So, well, I mean, I think that brings us towards the end of our talk today, Dan. I really appreciate you being on the show. We're going to have you on again because there's like 10 other topics that we have to get to in the future with health, just the health and blood testing alone to know your health. And
oh yeah,
I mean that's gonna be
life changer.
That'll be a life changer. So we'll get to that. But how can the people find you or find?
Instagram or YouTube. We're Green Synergy Farms and Green Synergy Cannabis. Instagram's probably the easy way to find us. You can see us washing cannabis. You can see our crops, close-up trichome pictures after it's been washed, so you can see how clean the plants are.
Yep.
But that's green_synergy_farms.
Perfect.
On Instagram.
Perfect. Okay, great. And everyone knows where to find me, but Instagram at The Green Grow, thegreengrow.com, and then our YouTube is Green Grow Biologicals. So thank you for listening to this podcast, the Regenerate Revolution podcast, where we talk about life, soil, and success.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode on the Regenerate Revolution Life Soil Success podcast. Do not forget to leave us a 5-star rating, review, like, comment, and share with your friends.